The Vision Pro has been out for a year now, and it is one of the most impressive pieces of technology I've ever used. And I can see how spatial computing can be the future. Unfortunately, not a lot of other people can because they haven't bought this device. And I've found over the last year, I barely use mine. When the Vision Pro came out, and even now, it has so much potential, but that potential has felt wasted. So in this video, we're going to talk about what the Vision Pro does well and doesn't do well. And at the end, make sure to stay at the end, or just jump there if you're impatient. And I'll share with you the main reasons that I'm not using mine and why I couldn't recommend this. Now, the first thing we should talk about with the Vision Pro is why would you want to get one of these to begin with? What is the value that it adds? And we'll start off first with one of the things it does best, and that is the media side of things. This is one of the most impressive media devices I've used. It is really like having a personal theater on your head. With the high resolution OLED displays in this, media looks incredible. It's nice to be able to make whatever size screen you want and see the screen in the right aspect ratio. And what makes it even better is if you take advantage of environments. Environments is another thing the Vision Pro does really well. This is such an immersive device. And when you turn on one of Apple's environments, it takes you to the place that you turn on. One of the recent ones that I like is Bora Bora. You hear the ocean, you hear the wind in the trees around you. You can look all around you. The environments combined with watching something just makes for a very relaxing, immersive experience. Unfortunately, that experience is a very isolated solo experience. It'd be nice if you could share this watching with someone else, so maybe you and your wife could watch the same movie for $7,000, or just buy a huge TV for that money. I do find with the Vision Pro, if you really want to focus on stuff, turn on environments, whether you're working, getting work done, or just really want to immerse yourself in whatever you're watching. Speaking of being immersed in content, Apple has their immersive videos that put you in the video, and they are really impressive. I can see how this could be the future of watching a movie. It's not gimmicky like 3D where things are coming out at you, but it feels like you are there. I actually got a physical reaction watching this lady on the tightrope that I started to sweat. And there's a submarine movie that I can't bring myself to watch because I found as I've gotten older that I'm more claustrophobic, and the idea of it being immersed in the submarine doesn't sound very comfortable to me because it feels like you are there. There's no way to show you guys that or to experience it anywhere else but in the Vision Pro. I wish everybody would go to an Apple store and see that immersive content and the potential. Things like Disney Plus offer 3D movies, and what's interesting with those is they don't pop out at you. There's a depth in the movies that is pretty cool. Watching some of the Marvel movies, you see that. Disney Plus even has an environment that'll put you in a movie theater, or you could be on a land speeder, or one of their other choices like the Avengers Tower. Another good use, actually kind of a mixed feeling use on this, is the web browser. There is so much you can access through the web browser. Having a web browser does fill some of the gaps that are here when it comes to apps on the Vision Pro. For example, I'll use the web browser to watch Hulu or YouTube because there are no apps for those, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I will say using the web browser can be a little cumbersome, which that'll lead me into the next thing. We'll just combine them. The eye tracking and hand gestures are incredible. They really are. It's impressive how you're able to just look at something and then just select it. But when you're looking at a web browser, there could be things that are kind of small. So at times you have to grab the window and like bring it close and maybe tap it because the eye tracking isn't getting right on. But eye tracking and the gestures are the least of the issues with this device because they work so well. And with the recent update, they added a new gesture. So if you open your palm, there's a little dot you could click and it opens the apps so you don't have to push a button. Or you could turn your palm over and see a little control panel and pinch and turn the volume up or down. I will say I like the interface and that spatial computing. That is something that's very cool, just to have windows all around you and not be limited to the size of your screen. The best way to describe it is as if you took a lot of your different apps on your iPad and you just grab the app and put it over there and put it over there. It's a very iPad OS type feel to it. I am still impressed with how crisp these windows look. They look like something physical you could touch. You don't notice any pixelation. And one of the things that I do notice that I'm not a fan of is you could only get some of these windows so small. I think that comes down to being able to read the text. I think they're about as small as they can be to keep that crisp, sharp look going. I do wish people can see the advantage of spatial computing. I know there's people that have multiple monitors going on with different information spread around, windows stacked on top of each other, but the idea of you can just have these spread around you as needed. So you just have your messaging app open there and you have your music app playing. One of the things that's really impressive to me is being able to input text either using your voice or the fact that there is a keyboard that, yes, you can use your eye and pinch on the individual keys, but if you bring that keyboard close, you can just tap out what you want. And that still blows my mind that with hand gestures and tracking and knowing where that window is, I am pushing buttons that don't really exist. You can pair this up with the physical keyboard and mouse. What's nice with Vision OS 2 is that when you're in one of the environments, you can now see your keyboard from your laptop or your computer. Before, you turn on an environment and it would go away. Now, the sound out of the AirPods Pro is pretty impressive. There is great spatial audio out of these. Majority of the time, if I'm just here in my office, I will watch and not put AirPods in. If you're using this on public, put some AirPods in. Other people are going to be able to hear this. And it's rude to play it loud without some AirPods. Now, this next one is kind of a good and bad, depending on how you use it. You can use the Vision Pro with your Mac computer as a display. And it's not a touch display. It just creates a window of your computer display. And now there's options so you can have a wide or an ultra wide screen. And it's cool. It's a cool feature that has gotten better with Vision OS 2, but it's not great. There's some lag in there that if you're moving your head or you're looking at text, there's just a little blur that for me, it's not worth it. I think if you're someone who just kind of moves your eyes around and not move your head around, the technology is great to be able to keep everything sharp and you don't have that motion blur. But me, I'm a head mover. I move around too much. So there's just too much blur on there. So I thought I was going to use it as an external monitor, but I really don't enjoy it for that. But then there's other people that swear by it. It's like I saw someone recently likes to use it for video editing, which for me, it's just not as sharp or crisp as a studio display. And I know there's going to be folks out there that'll be like, it's got this many billion pixels in it. Yeah, it's the latency, that little lag from the computer to the screen. If it works for you, it doesn't work for me. Now let's get into things I'm not a big fan of. Number one is the $3,500 price. I know they're treating this, it's a spatial computer for your face, but this thing, it needed to start at $2,500. Starting price of a MacBook Pro. I know it's new technology and all that, but it's too expensive. And I know they'll come out with the Vision Air, and that I can see being around $1,500, hopefully around $1,500. It'll never be cheaper than that. I mean, it'll be more expensive than a phone, I guarantee you. Now, next thing is the weight and comfort. This strap works pretty well for me, and I know there's things out there where you can have the on your forehead and wrap around the back, all of that. Yeah, no. Luckily this one works for me, but the weight on this, I get it. It's aluminum. That's probably the best material for dissipating heat. I don't want to get into all of that as if I know more than the people that designed it. But if you could trim things like the worthless eyesight or whatever the hell they call it, so that OLED screen, I mean, trim weight somewhere. You could barely see that little display on there. I'm like, trim off $200 and get that thing out. I do think from a comfort level and wearing this, I feel like I don't want to wear it any more than a couple hours. And even though it does fit pretty well on me, I could maybe add the over-the-top strap, but there's kind of a point where it's just kind of annoying. I don't need to suit up to just use this thing for a couple of hours. Now, another thing I don't like is it holds true for every VR, AR headset out there. It's the limited field of view. And because of this technology, having these displays so close to your eyes, the type of lens they have to use has distortion around the edges. It gives you almost that binocular effect. And the farther you get away, your eyes get away from the screen, the more narrower it looks. So yeah, you want to get the right fit for this. You almost want your eyes as close as possible to the screen. And people are worried about the screens being too bright and harmful on your eyes. The nice thing about the light block is it creates complete darkness. So they're able to run those displays so much dimmer than you think. Even though it looks like bright, crisp, and sharp, it doesn't need to blast your eyes. As you use it and get immersed in it, you don't notice that binocular effect as much. But, you know, there's times you'll notice when certain things show up on the screen because of the lenses used that light reflects around in them. And no matter how good it looks, because of that kind of lens technology, it's just not gonna beat an OLED TV or a studio display, in my opinion. And I'm not knocking Apple on that. It's just the nature of the technology at this point. Now, one that I wish you guys could see, and you can't, because when I do screen recordings, it's like you get the clean version, the cleaned up version from Apple. But as you're actually using this device, the pass-through on it, it feels like you take a 4K world and you turn it into 1080p or 720p. When using pass-through, it's constantly adjusting, not constantly, but as you look around different places, it's adjusting the brightness as you go. So you look towards a bright light and it dims the room. And it's just not, pass-through is not enjoyable. It's not good enough that I would want to really interact with the world while using pass-through. For me, the best way to use this is turning on one of the environments, because pass-through is just so grainy. But what gets captured in the cameras with screen recordings don't look grainy. Now, this next dislike, and it ties into one of the main reasons I don't use this anymore, it is the slow startup time. Because of the battery life, if you leave it sitting too long, it eats up battery and you don't have a lot left when you go to pick it up. But if you turn the thing off, it is one of the slowest starting devices that Apple has. So by the time this thing starts up, for me to do whatever I'm going to do, I could just grab my iPad and knocked it out. And, you know, I want to watch a YouTube video. I have it powered off. I'm like, wait for the power up, launch a web browser because there's no app for it. And we'll talk about apps in a moment. But it's just too slow. It reminds me of like an old Intel laptop starting up. It's just not Apple quick. Standby mode did get better with Vision OS 2. Prior to that, it was garbage. And I hate the idea that as soon as I get finished with it, I need to go plug it in so that it's going to have enough life to get me a couple hours. That leads me into the battery. I hate this thing. This thing is crap. I get it. This is a spatial computer. It needs a battery pack like this, but could we have shaved a little bit if you got rid of the dumb eyesight thing on the front? You know, could that have shaved some? Could this have been made out of plastic, similar to the AirPods? What could have been done to make this better? Or limit the use of this thing, because I hate this damn thing. It slides around too easily, so if you have it on the desk and you move it around, it just slides too easily. God forbid Apple put some rubber on there so you didn't have to worry about pulling it off. It is heavy, so if you do move or it falls out of your pocket or lap, it will yank down on the side of this thing, which does not feel good. So to prevent that, you can put it in your pocket, but if you like to keep your phone in your left pocket, well, take that out, move it, put it on there. All of this to turn it on. It's time consuming. You could leave it powered up all the time, plugged in, whatever. But I hate this. I hate this thing. It is stupid. It is in the way. I had to buy a piece of plastic to put this stupid thing in, and I don't like the cable on it. I don't know. The cable's too thick. And I think the thing that's really annoying for a $3,500 device is Apple does not have any kind of alternative to this. Why didn't this thing come with a 100-watt MacBook Pro brick and a 10-foot USB-C to this? That way you can just power it up. So maybe you only use it at your desk. It's ready to go. It's an entertainment device, just powered up, sitting next to your chair. So you put it on and jump right into whatever you're doing. This never caught on with me because of the friction of getting ready to use it. If this did not require a battery pack or cable, and you could just pop it on and use it like an iPad, that would be so much better and it'd get way more use. I think Apple overshot the runway with this. Even with the battery and all that, say you figure everything out, the last thing that really prevents me from using this is the apps. I think Apple blew it with this. I think they should have, well, one, I have a note right here that just says lazy because I didn't want to forget this point. I think Apple is lazy using the iPad compatibility. That isn't, you get the iPad app and it's a compatible app. And I feel like native apps, Apple hasn't even touched them. They just lean on that iPad compatibility. And for example, streaming services. This is an area that is just trash. I can watch Peacock, but I have an iPad screen, essentially. I can resize that iPad screen, but it's a compatible app. This compatible app thing, it's good. It's good for some things, but instead it feels like so many of the apps are neglected. That's where potential's lost on the app side of things. It feels like there's a handful of games, handful of streaming services. You can do productivity stuff with the Microsoft Office suite of things. I went a month, maybe a month and a half, and didn't even touch this thing. And I made sure, the past week to play around and use it more before making this video. And just day before yesterday, I was looking in the App Store and it feels like nothing's changed. They're like new apps. And I'm like, oh, great. Nothing we've ever heard of. It reminds me of the iPhone when it first came out, that there was kind of workaround apps, but the iPhone was a lot cheaper and sold a lot more and grew faster to the point that a lot of people made apps, where the Vision Pro is falling into that category of the Apple Watch, where it's just too much hassle for some of these companies to make it. Just really, really annoying that more iPad apps aren't compatible. Overall, the Vision Pro has so much potential and it has limitations, but those limitations could be overcome with software and Apple. The battery thing, make a plug-in adapter with a long cord so we can just not mess with that dumb thing unless we go mobile. Even if the battery and power thing wasn't better, if we had more apps that really took advantage of this. I get it. It is a niche early adopter product and they want to go premium and all out. But if you're going to go all out like that, at least back it up with software. It's one thing to make HomePods that just kind of sit there neglected and don't get integration with everything else. That's a $300 device. Now, what are your thoughts on the Vision Pro? Do you have one? Are you thinking about getting one? Do you see this as the future, or is it just a gimmick? Let us know in the comment section. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing to check out the next one, giving this video a like, and check out this video over here on uses for the Vision Pro, or check out this video up here that the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like best. Thanks for watching. Bye.